Hey everyone, welcome back to the middle of nowhere. So I once again ran a poll about my videos to see what you guys wanted to see. This was done on the Fave Characters Discord created by Bo and ran by him, myself, Ty from Ty the Reader, and Troy Knowlton, the author of Seekers of the Winds of Change. But anyway, in my section I ran a poll to see what kind of video you guys wanted to see. And so I am filming this video, which, just as Christopher Novel called out, is going to be completely different. No, I'm just kidding. This is going to be about my favorite characters. So this is a little bit different for me. I will say I'm much more of a plot, kind of action-driven reader. That's what tickles my fancy more than anything else. Don't get me wrong, I like the characters, but if you have an interesting story and plot line, that tends to pull me in a lot quicker than an intriguing character. But every once in a while, there are some exceptions. And usually when they're the exceptions, those are the characters that stick out to me. So let's get started. The first character I'm going to talk about is from a self-published superhero sci-fi series that has been going around quite a bit lately. It is written by the incredible J.C.M. Byrne of the Hybrid Helix saga, and that is Rohan. Rohan is Canadian with Indian heritage, but that's not what made me attached to him. He's just very relatable. I started reading the novel and immediately fell in love with him. How he's just trying to go about his daily life, just kind of like we are, and I could relate in that sense. And like sometimes you just want to just live and go on, be your boring old self. That's what I try to do every day. Doesn't always work out in my favor, but that's how it is sometimes. Needless to say, he's pulled into a lot of different things. I love the reasoning that he goes through, but I could just relate very well to that character. He's extremely well written. I also love the humor that he generally communicates with, and it makes me laugh all the time, as well as how he has an interesting plot that's kind of based around him and his personality and who he is as a person and how he develops from there. As I knock the table. It's very, very interesting. If you haven't checked out the Hybrid Helix, I highly recommend that story. It begins with the beautiful Wistful Ascending right here in all of his glory in his purple and yellow. Do wish he could have different colors, as I am a Celtics fan. Those colors are related to the Lakers. But what can I say? Rohan did win my heart. All right. The next character I'm going to talk about isn't necessarily from a book. Well, he is. He's in a book as well. He's always been my favorite. And actually, I give my love of sci-fi reading, like the stories and things, not to the book, but to Star Wars. My parents gifted me A New Hope on VHS. Hopefully you're old enough to know what a VHS tape is. If not, you are watching this on YouTube. Open a new tab, click Google, click search VHS, click images. You'll see what a VHS tape is. I'm not going to supply a picture of it here just because I just gave you the steps on how to do so. But anyway, you don't meet this character in A New Hope, but it is the movie series that I fell in love with. And in the sequel, you get The Empire Strikes Back. And you meet the one and only Boba Fett. I can't tell you why I exactly fell in love with him as a character. I think it was the mysteriousness. I love the bounty hunter aspect. And he just seemed like the coolest character ever. And in young 6-year-old George's mind, he became awesome. Needless to say, I've always liked Boba Fett ever going forward. Isn't that right? Yeah, I'm not going to do his voice. I have not watched the Book of Boba Fett because I'm worried about what Disney will have done with one of my favorite characters. Don't tell me, please. You can tell me everything else in the comments down below. Insert YouTube jabber jabber. Please like and subscribe. And the jabber jabber. But I did read the series based on him, which is, book 1 is Slave Ship, and I really enjoyed the series back in high school. I am planning to read it again. It's been many years since that has happened, and so I want to see if I still enjoy that series. But anyway, Boba Fett makes my list of favorite characters because of Slave Ship. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. Brandon Sanderson's one of my favorite authors, and main reason is because of a few characters. So we're going to talk about those now. The first character in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere that I really connected with was in Mistborn. The Final Empire, I think is what it's called. From the Mistborn Era 1. This was the second Brandon Sanderson novel. I've been fortunate that I've read them as they've been released. So I've always had to wait for the next Brandon Sanderson. Granted, it's not a very long wait. Novel to come out. I've been a fan of his since Elantris and picked it up when it was his only novel published. Needless to say, Mistborn was my second book that I read by him, and I immediately attached myself to the character of Kelsier. I like thieves. What can I say? Thief stories are some of my favorites. The heists, and just I get entranced by that style and what they can do and the cons and things like that. But Kelsier has a grudge, and I don't know if you've ever been offended, but it's always fun to fantasize like, what if? And I guess Kelsier embodied that what if personality. Plus, I loved the way that he fought against the tyrannical rule of the Lord Ruler, of always smiling. Like, even when he didn't feel like it, he forced himself to smile. And to me, it kind of embodies who I am. I try to be a very positive person and try to smile through everything, try to make everybody else smile as well. It just makes life better. But there are times when you don't feel like smiling, and Kelsier had several of those moments when he felt like he shouldn't be, like, didn't feel like smiling, but he still forced that smile on his face. Not really in the way that you're probably thinking if you haven't read the novels, but that's how I pictured it in some of those things that he did to make him self-smile and fight against the things that wanted to bring him down. And because that's the thought process that I kind of go about when I think of Kelsier, it really endears me that I need to smile and fight for those positive moments. And he instantly became a favorite. I apologize, the following segment was deleted due to spoiler discussions. George has been punished with a slap on the wrist. Alright. But that's why I enjoy Kelsier. Next, we're going to talk about one of the recurring characters that happens in the Cosmere, just because I find it extremely fascinating that there's always this character in all of the Cosmere novels. I feel like it's well enough known, especially if you follow Brandon Sanderson's world. Hoyd is a recurring character in all of the Cosmere novels in one way or another. Whether he's the narrator, plays a huge role, only there for a couple paragraphs or something of that nature. I became fascinated by it, and I thought it was a really clever move, and I became surely invested into the Cosmere once I discovered it. I discovered Hoyd upon rereads of and the storytelling and the voice that's going. His humor usually gets me, and I just find it fascinating and want to know more about him. So he became one of my favorites just because I want to know more of what he's doing with the Cosmere and all of that jazz. I'm not going to comment a lot just because I know it can be a polarizing subject and there's a lot out there of what he has done, especially within the Cosmere itself, and we'll leave it at that. But it's more the mystery of who he is and what's going on and what his true story is that has really captivated me, and I spent more time than I probably should have trying to figure it all out and researching it and taking notes and doing that stuff. But to me, it was just a lot of fun to do so, and I still look forward to knowing more about him. The next character on my list is probably from a series that's not as well known. It is by Rachel Aaron, and it is the Eli Mom Press series. I believe it's now comprised to 3 books, because I know they put books 1, 2, and 3 into one novel. When I read them, they were separate. And I don't know if there's a different name for the series. If there is, I will put it down in the little fancy notes that I can do while editing right here. They'll just magically appear for you because you're watching the video after I've done all the work. But Eli Mom Press is one of my favorite characters. He is funny, he's charismatic, shouldn't be a surprise. A lot of the things of previous people, he's not always doing things with the best of intentions, and I just love how he is able to use the magic system extremely in that series. For those that haven't read it, which I'm sure is a majority of you, the magic is that everything has a soul or a spirit, and it can be communicated with it in the right way if you have this knack. And Eli Mom Press has that knack, so you're introduced to him in a prison cell, and he uses that ability to his persuasiveness to escape. And it was my first ebook that I read ever. It's when Kindles were first coming out, and so I had like this demo segment, and that's what introduced me into The Spirit Thief. And I fell in love with Eli Mom Press. Just loved his charismatic abilities and the way he goes about things, and it never changes. And people try to get him to change and do all these different things, and he just doesn't. And he's true to who he is, and I loved it. Like, he embodied that series for me as a whole, and I highly recommend checking it out, especially to meet Eli Mom Press. We now come to what is one of my all-time favorite characters. As I've said, I really enjoy the works of Brandon Sanderson. The Stormlight Archive being one of my favorite series. I have read The Way of Kings many times, all for this character. And I know many of you are now thinking, oh, it's Kaladin. And you'd be wrong. Kaladin's a really cool and fun and interesting character, very exciting. And I know the character I'm going to talk about has fallen flat for a lot of readers in this novel. But it is the character of Seth, Sansan Villano, Truthless of Shinovar. And I love Seth. I really do. For the main reason that I connected in a very personal way with him. So this could be some spoilers if you haven't read the Stormlight Archive. I apologize, but I need to say some of this so you guys can kind of understand why he is my favorite character. The character in The Way of Kings has to do whatever he's told by the people that hold his rock, is what we'll say. He was cast out by his society for telling them one thing, and then nobody believed him, and he was cast out for betraying those laws. And he is now this perfect servant And to me, it just connected in a way, in a very personal way of like, that's just kind of what we have to do as people sometimes. And like how easy it is to just, instead of like, even when you know you're right, how easy it is to just kind of give in to what others say and just do what they say, no questions asked, even though it damages you, it hurts, it brings tears to your eyes. And to me, Zeth embodied some of those concepts for me, and it made me reflect and think a lot on my own life. And you're not going to get deep into the personal life of George, I promise that. I try to keep this lighthearted, fun, and talk about books. But that type of character really hit to me. And that's why I love to read. It's one of those things why I love reading, is sometimes that novel had nothing to do with how it impacted me, but it became my favorite book to read because of how it changed in the way it made me think of my own personal life and changes that I made accordingly. And I'm thankful to Zeth. He made me who I am today, in a way, like part of me. And that's the magic of reading. All of these characters are fun. I know I'm sure there's some surprises. We're not going to go into the deep, dark void of George's mind. That's a scary place to be. Trust me, I live there every day. But those are my top characters. I don't know how many I listed. I'm not good at counting. I just kind of list characters and go from there. I'm sure you've noticed I don't have a top 10, top 5, go that route. I'll just tell you my favorites, and if they change or add, maybe if I'm still doing this a year from now, we'll revisit and see if any new characters, if I've removed some of the characters from my list, and go from there. But yeah, who are some of the characters that stand out to you guys? I'd be curious to know. Please comment down below. I love reading the comments. I love responding to the comments. Or you can reach out to me on Discord in the Page Turners Discord, or via DM there. I try to respond to everybody as much as I can. But I appreciate you guys for watching. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Happy reading, and stay great.